boys who break the bank, episode 12. Before we start, I was told by the producers that I'm supposed to apologize for making the show run a little too long last week. So, like, it's not 100% my fault, but like, I guess I'm supposed to say, like, I'm sorry for making it so long, but like, if you were there, like, okay, now that the explanation's over, let's move forward. Let's show you how we did last week. But before I show you, let me tell you, of the value picks, we hit 80%, 12 of 15 value picks. That's great. Now, of the hidden gems, we hit 1 of 3. We say 3 because Dwayne Allen went down to injury quickly. Now, of the dart throws, we hit 1 of 4, 25%. That's not great. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Here are the quarterbacks. Carson Palmer, old reliable. We love him. Andy Dalton, the only hidden gem we hit on. Let's move to running backs. You see the running backs. Of the value picks, we were 66%. That's not bad. Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead. Of the wide receivers on your screen, clean sweep, 100% on the value plays. They all hit. The rest of them, that wasn't great. But tight ends, another clean sweep. Value picks, Eifert, 100%. Boom. And a huge hit on the dart throw of Crockett Gilmore. So if you followed us, if you followed our value picks, you would have won some money. But enough of the past. Enough of this. Let's wipe our hands of this. Let's move forward. Let's look for the future. Let's make money today. Let's make money for Sunday. Come on now.
I'm dead sexy.
Okay, you know what? Enough of last week. I've heard enough about how we did last week. I want to focus on this week. I want to make some money for me, a little money for you this week. So let's start with quarterbacks. Who's my value guy? It's a bird? Mm-mm. It's a plane? Mm-mm. It's Cam Newton. I mean, Superman has not disappointed this year. Last week alone, he flipped over a man when going into the end zone, got hit twice midair, and stuck the landing. The boy's an absolute freak. And this year, he decided he not only wanted to play quarterback, he wanted to fool around and play running back. Think about this. He has ran the ball 24 times for 111 yards and a touchdown through the first 2 games this year. And the third game only looks to get better as he squares off against division rival New Orleans, who, in 2 games last year, Cam torched for an average of 188.5 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air and another 63 on the turf with a third touchy. With the 2015 Saints defense giving up an average of 257 yards and 2 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks, expect Cam's numbers to Now, the second value pick I have is Carson Palmer. Now, I know, another week, another Carson Palmer recommendation. But I don't have to continue to tell you about this man's stats because he continues to put on a show. Through the first 2 games this season, he is averaging 246 yards a game for 3.5 touchdowns and only 0.5 picks. And in his last 7 starts, he has tossed the pigskin for 268.1 yards a game, 2.86 touchdowns, and only 0.4 interceptions. And this week, he plays San Francisco, who despite a week 1 mirage showed us this past Sunday, they are exactly who we thought they were. Trash. Big Ben torched them last week for 369 yards and 3 touchdowns, and I expect similar numbers from the shuffleboard king himself, Mr. Carson Palmer.
Wild card, bitches!
Now, my dart throw this week is Blake Bortles. Don't do that. Don't shake your head at me, all right? At least hear me out first. Okay? I love Blake Bortles this week. And I'm probably the only one who does. Now, that's because to the outside world, this guy's like a disease. Alright? No one wants to go near this guy like Jake Gyllenhaal and Bubble Boy. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine being the only guy that wants to select Blake Bortles when he threw for 273 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. I'm fine with that. Did I mention he's playing a Patriots defense that allows just under 300 yards and 2 touchdowns per game? And is priced in the 10th percentile of his position? Did I also tell you that Vegas has New England at -13, which means Jacksonville's going to be playing catch-up all day long, which means Mr. Bortles service himself will be chucking it around the field, racking up yards and racking up touchdowns. Dart throw.
I am very, very sneaky, sir.
My hidden gem this week is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, I have never suggested a New York Jet in my entire life, but this year they feel a little different. I mean, he's back with his boy, Shane Gailey. And when he was with Shane Gailey in Buffalo, the man made him into a top 12 fantasy QB. And in 2015, Fitzpatrick is averaging 211.5 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. And in week 2, he threw for 244 yards with 2 touchdowns. And this week he plays the Eagles, who in 2014 were the 30th easiest fantasy matchup for quarterbacks. I mean, I don't want to say it, but I really like Fitzpatrick this week. Now on to running backs. Ooh, running backs.
I'm dead sexy.
The first value pick on my list is Latavius Murray. Now, I'm not just picking this guy because he sounds like he should be with the 300 defending Sparta. I'm picking him because he's got it all. He's a 3-down back. He's played 93 of 99 plays. He makes tacklers miss. He's made 10 already this year, and he runs in the sub 4.4s. He's also playing the Cleveland Browns, who this year have allowed running backs to get a total of 189 total yards. They're also starting 2 starting safeties that couldn't tackle a fishing rod if they had to. Now, I'm no physicist, but if a guy's running this way at full speed and no one's touching him, I think he's going to keep running this way. My second value pick is Gio Bernard. Now, I know you haven't heard his name since last year when Jeremy Hill took the reins, but last week in the second half, he was handed the ball 15 times and ran for 91 yards. But that's not why I like him. Why I like him is because he's playing Baltimore, and Baltimore's defense is stingy. In the last 34 games, Baltimore's allowed 1 100-yard rusher, 4 90-yard rushers, and 11 70-yard rushers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why do you want a guy that's playing one of the best run defenses in the league? Because they stop the run. They've only allowed 67.5 yards, but what they do allow is running backs out of the backfield. They're averaging 4.5 receptions and 31.5 yards to running backs coming out of the backfield. And Gio, in his career against Baltimore, averages 5.3 receptions for 81.3 total yards and 0.25 touchdowns per. The man can catch the cookie, and he can also shake and bake a little.
I am very, very sneaky, sir.
My gem of the week. My gem of the week this week. Oh, is it my turn? Okay. Never have I ever picked a Patriots running back. I guess I'm taking one this week. LeGarrette Blount. Yeah, I'm so sick and tired of this hearsay that Dion Lewis is the featured back. You know how many times he got the ball last time? 7. You know how many times they ran the ball last game? 15. No one runs it against the Bills. It's a totally different system against the Jags. They're also the Patriots. They're going to be a big in this game. And what are they going to do when they get up big? I don't know. Hike, hand it to Blunt, let him run, let him track down the clock, let him move the pile, let him rack up 75 yards and 1, maybe 2 touchdowns at his price? That's a gem, people. That's a goddamn gem.
Wild card, bitches!
My dart throw this week is Dexter McCluster. Now, I don't just like Dexter McCluster because I feel like he should be playing with Pablo Sanchez in backyard baseball. I like this guy because I have a hunch, and I mean, this is a hunch. Like, I'm thinking way outside the box that Tennessee, maybe, they just might be playing from behind this week against the Colts. And just like last week, I think Dexter McCluster is going to outsnap Bishop Sankey. Of the 80 plays Tennessee ran this past Sunday, McCluster was on the field for 47, while Sankey was only on the field for 32 snaps. McCluster also had 10 rushes for 98 yards and adding 4 receptions for 26 yards. Look for the Titans to fall behind early, forcing them to abandon the ground and pound game and instead lean on their multi-purpose scat back. That is Dexter McCluster, the backyard baseball legend.
I'm dead sexy.
Now we're on to wide receivers. The first value wide receiver on my list is Julian Edelman. Tom Brady and Julian Edelman have hooked up more times in the last 11 games than Edward Cullen and Bella from the Twilight Saga. In 2015 alone, Edelman's averaging 15.5 targets a game with 11 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. The man is peppered with targets. He's also playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who still haven't learned the concept of what a slot receiver does. Since 2014, the Jags have surrendered the most yards to slot receivers, and Edelman plays the slot 56% of the time. Julian Edelman and Tom Brady are two of the hottest guys on the planet, and the Jags defense this Sunday will be easier to score on than the freshman girl with daddy issues. The next guy on my list is Brandon Marshall. Now, I'm not sure if you saw this dude's get-up on Monday night, but he looked fresh. He obviously likes playing in New York, and his numbers support it. In 2015, B. Marsh averages 9.5 targets a game, 6.5 receptions for 81.5 yards, and a touchdown. Expect those numbers to increase with an injured Eric Decker. He will also be shadowed by Byron Maxwell for the entirety of the game, who used to be part of the Legion of Boom, but now is just a region of busted coverage, as Pro Football Focus has ranked him the second worst cover corner in La Liga. Expect B. Marsh to eat. No. My third value pick is James Jones. Now, Old Man Jones couldn't buy a home this preseason. He went from Oakland to New York, only to resurface in Packer country, where the markets have just exploded. In the first two games of this season, my man Jimmy has been doing his best Scott Hansen impression. Just dominating the red zone. The boy's got 3 touchdowns. And if it weren't for a drop ball, a questionable penalty flag, and the dimple of his right cheek landing just out of bounds, the man would have 6 TDs. This week, he hosts a Kansas City secondary that's already surrendered 4 red zone touchdowns to wide receivers. And there's blood in the water. My fourth value pick of the week is Larry Fitzgerald. Now, everyone knows what Larry Fitzgerald did last week, but what you need to understand is that when they were in the red zone, they looked at Larry Fitzgerald 2 times, and of those 2 times, he caught 2 touchdowns. Another important stat is that he's 30.3% of Carson Palmer's attempts, and he has played 115 of the 121 snaps Arizona's run this year. He also averages this year 8.5 targets a game, 7 receptions for 99.5 yards, and 1.5 touchdowns a game. There's not much else to say other than Fitzy's back and it's gonna be trouble. Ooh la, Fitzy's back.
I am very, very sneaky, sir.
My hidden gem this week is Kendall Wright. Now, I know what you're thinking. Really, Bill? Kendall Wright? I mean, last week against Cleveland, he had 2 receptions for 17 yards. Well, hold your horses, okay? Cleveland's got one of the best secondaries in the league. They proved that week 1 when they limited fellow slot man Eric Decker to 2 receptions for 37 yards. How did Eric Decker fare the next week, you ask? Erupted. 97 yards and a touchdown against a depleted Indianapolis secondary. Who does Kendall Wright play this week? Oh, that's right. The same Limp Bizkit group of Indianapolis defensive backs.
Wild card, bitches!
My dart throw this week is Tyler Lockett. Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks spark plug that took a week 1 punt to the Baja. He'll have ample opportunity to return punts this week as Seattle plays the Jimmy Clausen-hosted Bears that couldn't trade an arm or a leg to have a first down last week. But it's not just his returning ability that I love. Of the 143 plays Seattle has run this season, Lockett has been on the field for 90 snaps. And of those 90 snaps, he's run routes 68.9% of the time. Now, I understand he only has 6 receptions for 51 yards on the year. But in 2014, the Bears were the 24th easiest wide receiver fantasy matchup. Seahawks are hungry for a win and will be cooking with gas the entire game. On to tight ends, people.
I'm dead sexy.
My first and only value pick at tight end is Greg Olson. Greg Olson has played every single snap this year. And last week, of Cam Newton's 37 pass attempts, Greg Olson was targeted 14 times. That's 37.8% of the time. Olson racked up a quiet 6 receptions for 70 yards, but you have to expect that number to grow as he plays the Saints this week in the Powder Puff game of the weekend. The Saints defense this year has given up a raunchy 28.5 points per game, and in week 1 allowed Darren Fells, who? Yeah, Darren Fells, to rack up 4 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. Expect Greg Olson and Cam Newton to get real cozy again this week.
I am very, very sneaky, sir.
My hidden gem this week is Eric Ebron. You remember Eric Ebron, the 10th overall pick last year that turned out to be a total bust? Well, this year he's decided to turn it on. Of the 125 offensive snaps Detroit has played this season, Ebron has been on the field for 81.6% of them and given himself averages of 4.5 receptions a game for 48 yards a game and a touchdown every game. There are only two reasons to explain Ebron's success. Either he spent his entire offseason at the Gates Manor sticking performance-enhancing needles in his butt, or he pulled his head out of the same crevice and finally decided to learn the Lions playbook. Either way, his success is directly related to his ass. And oh, does his matchup look juicy this week as he plays a Denver defense who in 2014 ranked 30th in defending the tight end.
Wild card, bitches!
My dart throw this week is Jared Cook. Now, Jared Cook is a rumbling, bumbling, stumbling son of a bee who last week fooled around and had himself a pretty good game. 5 receptions for 66 yards. On the season, Nick Foles has targeted the tight end position 28.8% of the time. Of the 17 tight end targets, Cook received 13 of them. He's playing 79.5% of the offensive snaps, and in week 3 will match up against a Pittsburgh defense. A Pittsburgh defense that gives more handouts than Obama during the recession. I mean, a defense that ranks 31st when defending the tight end and on average hands out a cool 7 receptions for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, if you followed my value picks, you're going to have money left over to go after the elite guys, but you have to be careful because not every elite player is going to perform to his value. These are the guys that I like the best, the elite players, the guys that if you have money left over and if you can afford them, get them on your team. We've made one massive mistake through the first 2 episodes. We haven't told you guys how we're gambling, how we're betting. So hitting your screen now are our FanDuel entries this week. You can see here we have 2 $5 entries where the first place prize gets $100,000. Now hitting your screen are our DraftKings entries. Again, 2 $3 entries where the first place prize gets $100,000. But you have to be careful. You have to protect yourself, protect your investment. So hitting your screen now are the 2 cash games that we enter. You can see here on FanDuel we paid a $10 entry where the top 17,000 guys get paid $20. And on DraftKings it's another $10 entry where the top 10,000 guys get $20. We do this in order to protect ourselves, in order to keep our portfolio growing. Now, if you didn't catch all those players and you want to copy our team for verbatim, pause the video, rewind the video, and go look at them again. Now we're on to defenses and kickers. And you know my rule if you watch the show. We don't bullshit back and forth about defenses and kickers. I'm just going to hit you with a slide. You see here, I like Seattle, I like Denver, and obviously I like the Jets. As kickers, I like Mason Crosby, and I like Brandon McManus. They're cheap, and they should be able to perform. That's it, people. That's the show. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in. Of course, I want to thank you for tuning in. And remember, we've made a small change to the show. We are now 2 separate shows. This show, the one that airs every Friday, will be your advisory show. The one that tells you how to spend your money on FanDuel and how to spend your money on DraftKings. The next show, the one that comes out on Wednesday nights, will be the one that looks out this week in the NFL. The commentary, the jokes, the laughter, all of it combined into